Hello guys, on today's show we're going to get into a disaster at the bottom of the table for Leicester City. Are the playoffs done and dusted? And we've got a deep dive on Millwall's fantastic season coming up. Hello guys, welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled, brought to you by Betfred. I'm joined today by Benjamin Bloom and Chris Chapman, Chat with Chaps, Millwall fan making his long-awaited debut. We're going to do a deep dive into Millwall later on, but I've got some things to say about Leicester City. For me, Ben, they're gone. I'm calling it now. Leicester City are relegated. 4 games to go. A home defeat against Swansea. Zapata with the only goal of the game. And things are looking very, very bleak for the Foxes.
It's not happening, is it? It's not happening for Gary and for Leicester whatsoever. And all the things that we kind of hypothesised about the squad and what could happen, but in the back of our minds said, but they'll still win 3 out of 5 at some point, and Fatawu and James and Reed and whoever will get them out of it. All of those things are turning out to be true. And just the nature of that defeat, which we probably all kind of saw coming. You have to win. Swansea are on the beach. They've got nothing to play for, but they have the Championship's top goal scorer. And you see them making a few chances and not taking them, and then the goal goes in. And just even not being in the stadium, just the reaction of the fans when that goal goes in of, well, that's that. We're done today, and we're probably done for the season. Just abject disaster. And you rightly raised the point months ago, a lot of these players are not going to be there next season. And I don't want to question anyone's integrity. They've got to the top of the game. They're elite sportsmen, but they do not look connected with this club at all, do they?
There's a 4-point gap now, and we will go on to the other results. Portsmouth and Oxford, again, big results this weekend as well. But I think Ben's right, and it was the manner of the goal they conceded. It was like a short corner, and Swansea just ran away and ran the length of the pitch. Wonderful finish by Zapata, top scorer in the league, 21 goals. Are you with me? Do you think they're gone? 4 games to go. They need to bridge a 4-point gap.
It's going to be tough for them, isn't it? I mean, obviously they play us, Millwall. They haven't got the easiest run of games. They obviously have a crucial game coming up against Portsmouth, and I think that is just mouthwatering, isn't it? I think if they don't win that game, I'm definitely on the bandwagon that they're down. But it's just like you were saying, Ben. You were just waiting for those players to get them out of trouble. You know, Fatawu is an incredible talent, to name a few. But as you said, they had a lot of chances to score goals against Swansea. They didn't. Swansea take their one chance from a Leicester set piece, by the way, and then it just unravels. It
feels like, and I've said this over the last few weeks, we're now at the stage of the season where performances don't really matter at all. It's all about results, especially if you're at the bottom of the table. Leicester's remaining fixtures, Portsmouth away on Saturday. Ben, doesn't get any bigger than that, does it?
Cannot wait for that filth.
I know. Hull at home, Millwall at home, 2 teams fighting to finish in the top 6, and then Blackburn away on the final day. They don't have any teams on the beach. They just played a team on the beach and lost. What do you make of those final 4?
Oh, God.
And what do they need, actually, in terms of points?
Well, they need to stop drawing, don't they? And
Gary Rowett team.
I know. Maybe if Gary had come in earlier. But Oxford did win games, didn't they, last season? When they went on their splurge, they won games 1-0. They won games at home. They leveraged set plays, all of that good stuff. This is just absolutely not happening. To your point, that goal went in the 53rd minute. That is a long time still to respond, but there's just idea of it being, you know, flat as a pancake. And I assume we're now going to go on and talk about the others, but all the things we're about to say about Oxford and West Brom and Blackburn and Pompey now with the 4 points in the last 2 and the head-to-head coming up, all those things we're about to lavish praise on, we're saying the opposite about Leicester.
Absolutely. And talking of Oxford, you've just basically given a rundown of what they did last season. Set pieces, very hard to break down. Seems to be the same this season now, and Bloomfield's done a wonderful job recently. 2-0 win against Watford. This felt like a big win for them. And again, set pieces, massive for them. Still in the relegation zone, but looking like a team that could well climb out of it.
Yeah, I mean, they must have been absolutely gutted when they saw that Connor Chaplin goal going right at the death for Portsmouth. But yeah, I think they're giving themselves every opportunity, aren't they? I think they've got some interesting games to come up. They actually come to the Den on the final game of the season.
Sheffield Wednesday in there as well, Chris.
Sheffield Wednesday,
yeah.
You know, they're
really
giving themselves
tough team,
a fight.
Sheffield Wednesday, really hard to break down. Always thought of being one of the best teams in the league this season. Anyway, sorry, Chris.
No, I think Oxford are giving themselves a fighting chance, and for me, if Matt Bloomfield can keep this Oxford team up, he deserves to be in the mix for, awards aplenty, because I think it would be an astronomical achievement. But 16 points from their last 10. That's I think they're 7th in the league based on current form. So they're doing everything they can. I, for one, would love to see them stay up just based on, I love an underdog, and if they can do that, that'd be phenomenal.
Still one of the smallest budgets in the league, and we talked about the Bloomfield appointment when it happened, but he's proven himself to be fantastic at the moment. Their next fixtures, Derby away on Saturday, and we've touched on another few of them. It does feel like they've got the mentality, which Leicester don't have, of being in a relegation battle. They've done it before. They know how to make the games tight. They know how to win headers from set pieces. They have the components, to get out of this, I think, Ben.
And I thought, the only word I can think of is they have the humility that maybe, okay, we know what we are. You're probably going to be right when the accounts are published 18 months down the line. They're probably going to have the smallest budget or the second or third smallest budget. Ergo, you should be in the relegation zone if, money correlates with performance, which it often does. And let's be honest, we were on here when Bloomfield got appointed saying, okay, if they drop, he'll be a good manager in League One because he did well with Wickham there. But he's doing far, far better than that. And all of those things you talk about, start the game fast, added physicality in January as well, because it's come circular back to Gary Rowett. It was felt that wasn't particularly a strength of Oxford's there, despite them being very sort of stoic and stable. But yeah, Chris is right. Gutted when that Pompey goal goes in, because that 2-point swing, and I thought they were done, and they would have been outside the bottom 3 with 4 to play. 2
very crucial goals going in for Portsmouth against Oxford, because before they rescued a point, didn't they, with 10 men against Oxford. So if you take that goal out of it as well.
Simon, I hope we're not discussing that game because of the refereeing angle as the key. If this comes down between Pompey and Oxford, and I know there's a West Brom angle to this now, but if this comes down between those two and we're talking about a possibly dodgy red card for Pompey in that game, that would be a gnarly way to go down for either of those teams, wouldn't it?
Do you want to jump in and continue on the West Brom angle? Because we had some breaking news pretty much just before we jumped on.
Yeah, so to break the fourth wall, we do our little debrief before, and Seb, our producer, said that, was it Telegraph, Seb?
Yeah.
Telegraph have gone with a PSR angle on West Brom right now. My first reaction was, well, if we're discussing West Brom PSR on April the 13th, and even if a charge goes in, there'll be time to respond to the charge, and then a sanction would be 2-3 months down the line, which then takes us into next season. That surely that can't have an effect on this season. But the wording, apparently, from what Seb was saying, is that I think the key word is sanctions need to be applied the following season. So I would have thought that in the September international break next season, if West Brom are going to be sanctioned, that's when it will be coming. But I know what the argument's going to be, because the Leeds fans and the Ipswich fans and the Southampton fans argued it against Leicester of, okay, when was the advantage gained and who's it affected? But we report money retrospectively 1 year and then 18 months with court things to happen. And this is the system we're in. And yeah, we may be having a minus next to West Brom next season, but we'll see what plays out. And this is only broken like 60 minutes ago, yeah?
Yeah, and it does feel very unlikely that anything would happen to their points tally this season. Almost impossible with the amount of time that's left. You saw them up close and personal, didn't you, on Friday night, 0-0 against Millwall. How impressed were you with them and their turnaround, really, under James Morrison?
Yeah, and again, you look at form tables towards the end of the season, they picked right up. And I think, for me, what I was impressed with West Brom was just the structure and the way they were disciplined and the graft, I guess, from the team, which I hadn't seen.
4-4-2, get 2 strikers on, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they even had Malumbi at right mid. It was just kind of this different West Brom team to the one that we'd seen under the previous management. And I think that's what Morrison is getting out of them. I think personally it will be enough to keep them in the division. Obviously, if we assume that what we just spoke about obviously doesn't happen this year. However, next season, what happens then from a West Brom standpoint? I think that will be really interesting, particularly if they start with a minus points. But I was impressed with West Brom. I think they'll have enough. We'll talk about Millwall later. We looked a little bit leggy, if I'm honest. I think we're just running out of steam at a crucial time. But yeah, overall, really impressed with West Brom. And I thought Diakite in the centre of the park, I thought he was exceptional. I was really good.
Unbeaten in 7 now, West Brom, by the way. That's gone under
I'm
the
lucky
radar.
that it's that close.
Yeah.
Yeah, this rising tide below them, because, you know, it's not complicated sometimes. You've got good players. For whatever reason, they weren't having Eric Ramsey. But yeah, organise, run, head it, kick it, stick 2 strikers on, get it into them, be hard to beat. But yes, I did say 10 minutes ago, you might not be able to draw yourself to safety this season.
True.
If, I don't know, Simon, what, another 2 wins for Oxford or Pompey, and West Brom could be...
Four draws takes West Brom to 50 points.
But you don't see 2 teams overtaking them, do you?
No, not really. And that's where I think Leicester are in massive trouble, is that Leicester have to be better than 2 teams above them, and not just better than them, 4 points better than them.
It'd be rather helpful if West Brom was safe by the time they played Ipswich as well, wouldn't
Yes, it would. And did you say West Brom got to play Millwall? Is that right? No, they just played Millwall.
We've got Oxford and Leicester.
Of
They're
course,
the two
in the
teams
relegation
we've
battle, and
got.
we will, of course, come to Millwall and do a deep dive on them later.
Can I just ask Chris a question quickly?
course you
What's
can.
the angle going to be on sending Rowett down possibly there? How's that going to be greeted by the Lions fan base?
I think it's probably fair to say that he had a mixed relationship with the Millwall fans.
That's why I asked you the question.
So
Chris.
I think I don't think Millwall fans will be present company excused. I've got a lot of time for Mr. Rowett. But yeah, I think a lot of Millwall fans will look forward to that.
He's done this before, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's very professional and he's doing very well. We have to talk about Portsmouth, arguably the standout result of the Championship weekend. Middlesbrough 0, Portsmouth 1. We've talked about the impact of the sides at the bottom. We'll speak about the sides at the top shortly, but this is huge given what we've seen from Portsmouth in the last few weeks. For Connor Chapman to nick 3 points like this, and Middlesbrough, it's all unravelling, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And you know, we went to Middlesbrough and beat them 2-1, but the first 45 minutes they played us off the park. You know, they could have and should have been out of sight. But how many times have we said that now about Middlesbrough? They could and should have been out of sight in this game. The amount of chances they created throughout the game, I think 78% possession.
78?
I think it was 78% possession. Obviously, someone can fact check me on that. But the reality is, as you said earlier, it's all about points. It's about winning games, and it doesn't matter how you do it. So Portsmouth will have absolutely lapped that up. I think what's really interesting from a Portsmouth perspective is they've beaten 2 teams in the last 10 games. They've gone to Middlesbrough and won, and they went to Millwall and won. And they were incredibly impressive against us. I was like, they're going to go on a run. They're going to get out of it. They're going to get into the top half. And they haven't. But again, going back to, we were talking about other teams, they've given themselves that fighting chance now. And obviously they've got the game in hand to play this week.
Game in hand, and the home game against Leicester coming up as well, which is just absolutely massive. Should talk a bit about Middlesbrough, Ben. It does feel like the wheels have come off slightly. I think I saw a graph earlier, by the way, that showed that their XG4 and their XG against was actually the biggest gap it's been. So they're dominating games more than ever over the last 6 weeks. And yet they've not won in 7 now, I think. Dropped down to 4th. Southampton on their tails of the game in hand as well. Kim Hellberg, to me, looked a bit desperate in his pre-match press conference. He did a bit of swearing, and that caught the fans out a bit. And that works if your team goes out and wins, and you're like, right, he's shown some fight. Now they've lost again. It's a real concern.
It's gone beyond a concern. It's absurd what's happened, isn't it? Because I would argue the best football in the Championship, Coventry have been the best team, but the best football in bits, and you know, you saw them in the flesh for 45 minutes, I think has been played by Middlesbrough when Hackney and Whittaker, although Hackney wasn't there in the Millwall game, wasn't he? When those two have been in there, and I absolutely don't get it. This absolute Achilles heel, kryptonite, or whatever, that if you show up, you defend your box. And I mean, there's no better team than Millwall, and Charlton did the same thing, who are very good, head it, kick it, get it out of dodge, and they're just tripping over themselves left and right. It's 2 wins in 11. That is 19th place form since the moment they took top spot And you and me had a conversation of probably going to go on and win the league.
If they'd have beaten Coventry, they'd have been 5 points clear of them.
Yeah.
Such a
And
sliding
the
doors
turner-
moment, wasn't it?
That is the sliding doors moment of the entire season. You bang on, Chris. And I don't know if there's the confidence thing if they lost there or where the Lampard. And we've seen teams beat them in different ways.
But
But
Simon,
Lampard,
they went to QPR a couple of weeks later and battered them.
They
and
won
looked
2 away games in a row.
brilliant, yeah.
And then since then,
At
they've
Birmingham as well,
yes.
which is not easy. And it was a Monday night TV after everyone else had played. It's just insane. I remember Derby under Steve McLaren someone can fact check me, were like top of the table February and missed the playoffs. And I remember Bielsa's Leeds lost 9 games in the calendar year of 2019 in that running from top of the table at Christmas. This is now up there from us sitting here going, this is a great side. Hellberg looks awesome. Hackney's the best player in the division, to utter collapse. But if Ipswich lose to Pompey, head-to-head game against Ipswich, Hackney and Whittaker come back, they beat Ipswich, they're back in it, but it doesn't look like going that way at the moment.
I said a few weeks ago as well on the show, the Riverside feels like a negative rather than a positive for them now. And I'm just scrolling back through their results, Chris. Their last few results at home, 0-0 against Oxford, 1-1 against Leicester, lost 1-0 at home to Charlton, drew 1-1 with Bristol City, lost 2-1 to Millwall, of course, and lost 1-0 at home to Portsmouth. It feels like the fans are really struggling to deal with getting behind the team in a moment of need. That's what it looks like from the outside.
Yeah, I can only reference, because I went to the Millwall Middlesbrough game, and at that point, obviously things were slightly different then. You know, we'd just come back from the break, and it was a great atmosphere from both sides. You know, it was a big sellout crowd, and it was a good back and forth between the two teams. But of course, that whole paradigm shifts when we then go and beat them. And I would imagine the game against Portsmouth, you know, I looked at the crowd, I think even on like 80 minutes, it was starting to you know, filter out. So yeah, it's a different type of pressure. And one of the things I've really noticed, and if you kind of just watch, I watched the extended highlights of the game against Portsmouth, it is vital decisions at the vital time. It's taken a touch too many, playing in the wrong player at that time. These are the things where you start to see that pressure start to play out. And I think Middlesbrough are a fantastic team in 70% of the pitch. But where they are struggling is both boxes. Yeah. And that is funny because that's like the complete opposite, I think, of a Millwall team, despite our recent results, where we haven't been necessarily the most free-flowing side in that middle section of the pitch, but both boxes we've been pretty good.
It's the striker's been an issue all season in terms of converting chances, and you wonder if, I don't know, someone like Patrick Bamford up front would have scored a bucket load of goals and they'd have been fine.
Do they have a central striker?
They
like
play Conway,
in reality,
Conway, I
but
guess,
he's not. His chance conversion rate is just not good enough to take the chances. I'm not putting all the blame on him because they should have other options.
Well, they got Strelec. They paid like 7 million or something for him.
Yeah, Calais Sen as well plays up front every now and again, but there's something badly amiss. But going into the playoffs, if they can dominate a team over 2 legs, if they can go to Ipswich and beat them and they get that win.
Defences win playoffs, Simon.
I know. I'm trying to be positive for the Borough fans, but it's tough right now. It is tough right now. I also wanted to point out, you did a nice little tweet, Ben, about the relegation zone managers.
Once a month.
Yeah. No, give him a follow on all the platforms. You know where to find him. Go on, give us the stats for the managers at the bottom of the table.
Well, and I mean, this was kind of going to be my question to you guys was, does keeping the same manager in there work? Because the bump, Michael O'Neill's got the best points per game of any manager down there. It helps when you win back-to-back and you've only done 11 games or 10 games or 9, whatever it is. Really interestingly, Gary Rowett, 0.9 points per game, so absolutely no uplift for Leicester. John Massinio, and of course, he's done the whole season just over a point per game. So I don't know what your guys' views are. Is that the golden ticket? You're down there, you're in trouble, make that change, 15 to go, get that little bump, and if Portsmouth go down, I love John Massinio. I think he's great. I think keep him as long as possible, but would throwing in a Michael O'Neill or a Matt Bloomfield or West Brom have gone twice, so you can flip the argument. Didn't work with Eric Ramsey, but it's working with James Morrison. But no, I just thought it was interesting.
It depends who comes in, doesn't it? That's the big decision. It depends how that decision goes. Blackburn could have got it wrong. They've got it bang on. West Brom did get it badly wrong and have now rectified that with their second change. It's a flip of the coin for me, Chris.
Yeah, I think it's fit. Like West Brom have gone, right, what do we need to do to get out of this? To coin what you said earlier, Ben, which is just maybe a bit of go back to basics, right? Just sort of 4-4-2, up and at them.
And a guy, Chris, the fans will immediately like.
Exactly. Yeah. Club legend, he's not necessarily got the experience, but let's get him in. Let's let's unite the club again. And that's worked. Michael O'Neill, a wily manager, very, very experienced at being an underdog team. You think about he's as manager of Northern Ireland, he's never really going into many games being a favourite.
Calm as well,
composed.
Cool, yeah.
So that kind of works. I mean, I like Gary Rowett, but was he ever the right fit for Leicester? When you think about the group of players there, maybe, again, not to question anyone's integrity, but some of the egos that might be there, some of the contractual bits and pieces that are going on, was he always the best manager to get more out of that group? I'm not sure.
What would have happened if Michael O'Neill had gone into Leicester?
That's a massive question, isn't it? I think he'd have got more out of them, but that's easy to say now on paper.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Gary's perfect in all the press conferences, super positive, says all the right things, but I wonder, are you saying maybe just someone who'd have gone scorched earth on all of them and, told them really some home truths and, played some different players, but easy with hindsight to ask, isn't it?
Easy with hindsight, indeed. We need to turn our attention to the promotion race because there was a little derby that occurred over the weekend, Ben, and Ipswich turned up in style, got a massive 2-0 win away at Norwich, first win in years there for Ipswich, and have now, I think we can say, taken control of the race for second.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go on to Millwall, but it's all come up lovely for Ipswich because that moment Josh Coburn scores at Middlesbrough and Millwall are taking second place, you're thinking, oh, big power shift there. And then next 180 minutes of football, 5-point swing between Millwall, Middlesbrough and Ipswich. They've both put 1 point on. Ipswich put 6 points on. Look, we're not here to do the Ipswich angle. We're here to do the big picture angle, but incredible first time in 20 years. I know the rivalry outside of East Anglia and Norfolk and Suffolk is obviously less meaningful to most of our viewers, but that's a really big deal for Ipswich fans because the shift in power, despite the fact Ipswich were promoted in 23-24, the shift in power only truly happens when you can then bank your Premier League money and go to somewhere like Norwich with a squad of players that can go and control the game in that atmosphere, in that pressure cooker. And it's tournament football like those games, isn't it? You've just got to play the margins and not get sucked into the crazy. And it was an excellent performance. And 10 points from 6 games, and barring Millwall turning into 1960s Real Madrid and scoring 35 goals and conceding 0, and Ipswich will take second place.
Absolutely, it's looking really good for Ipswich. Quick shout out to Sheffield Wednesday, by the way. I went and drove 3 hours there and back to watch us draw 0-0 at home to Sheffield Wednesday. But what a performance from them at the CBS Arena. They deserved their point, maybe even deserved all 3 in truth, and their fans were absolutely superb. Coventry now 1 point away from confirming promotion Friday night at Blackburn, hopefully where it happens from my point of view. Wanted to do a quick word on Southampton as well, Chris, because 17 games unbeaten, 5 league wins in a row, 3 points behind Borough with a game in hand, and Tonderecker has just got this team playing like one of the best in Europe at the moment.
I struggle to find superlatives that do it justice, quite frankly. We talk about a barometer of a top 2 side being 2 points per game. In the last 10, they've got 2.6 points per game. They're a phenomenal team. And this is all as well with losing Adam Armstrong in the January transfer window. But one of the things I do want to talk about, although I've said that, I'm going to kind of flip that on its head and say, but the business they did do in the January transfer window, which is to bring Larin in, get Stewart back fit, and then the goalkeeper, I think has really helped them. But they're fantastic. The teams that they've beaten over that period obviously had the fantastic and deserved win, by the way, over Arsenal. And I think, personally, if there was 2 or 3 more games in the season, I think Ben's second spot might not look so comfy.
You with that, Ben?
It's so hard to say. Southampton fans get annoyed with me just bringing up the kind of variance argument and the logistical argument. I think I mean, look, there is a world where Southampton finish second, regardless of 2 or 3 extra games, but I believe that involves them either going 10 out of 10 to end the season. What is their upside, Simon? If
they win their last 5 games, they finish on 84 points.
84. Okay, so 9 out of 10. And Ipswich might well still finish ahead of them. We don't. Ipswich could collapse. You don't know. But yeah, the only thing I will say is we've seen teams before. You can go too early and then have nothing left for the playoffs. So are we saying there's a probability that, there's no kind of collapse, there's no kind of resting up and resting players? Are Southampton, so where are we at? 17 games unbeaten now. Add another 5 is 22. Add another 3 in the playoffs. They're going to be perfect for 25 games. You have one bad game in there. And if they don't, fair play.
The Man City Cup semi-final as well to come, which is just, that could end in... They'll probably lose that game, let's be honest, with what we're seeing from Manchester City. And does that then throw them off? How does that affect them? Is there extra time? You just don't know how those FA Cup games are going to affect them. And a trip to Wembley.
Well, and a home game against Ipswich, sandwiched in between round 45 and 46, where every Ipswich fan is saying, right, you need a 4-point gap minimum going into that. But... then again, do you remember Aston Villa? Aston Villa with Grealish and Mings and Tuanzebe did 10 in a row and then had a little rest and then won the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You don't know. Yeah, you don't know if they can be perfect for that long.
Look, if Southampton win 9 out of the last 10 or 10 out of the last 10 and finish second, that will perhaps be the greatest run to promotion we've seen. Yes, they're a Year 1 parachute team and they've got loads of really good players, but they're also, from Easter, with the Cup game and the Blackburn one being moved early, it's literally Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. If they do that, incredible.
Incredible. Defeats Fulham and Wrexham also this weekend. Chris, quickly, do you think the playoffs, the top 6 are kind of set how they are and those will be the 4 playoff teams? And we've said the top 2 will probably be the top 2.
I do, yeah. I think for me now it's where everyone finishes in that position. I think with Wrexham obviously not taking the opportunity, they're still now 4 points off, 4 games to go. Looking at some of the fixtures, I think it'd be hard to see that swing. And if you're going to keep Wrexham now in it, you've got to keep Derby in it, right? If you're going to go to that level. But yeah, I think it is going to be those 4 teams. And I think the argument that Ben makes there around sort of peaking too early, it's interesting because the other 3 teams that would then be in the playoffs have all had this drop off. So are we seeing the kind of slowdown in form before then the momentum kicked back in? And again, being really objective, I would say that Middlesbrough have the highest ceiling to get back to. And is that when Hackney comes back in, Whittaker comes back in? Do we all of a sudden see a completely different Middlesbrough side? So it's going to be a fascinating run-in. I'm delighted to be a part of it. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yeah, I think to answer your question, I think those 4 spots pretty much are locked now.
I agree with you. I can see Southampton overtaking Middlesbrough, but back to your point, I do think if Middlesbrough can get their head round the fact they're in the playoffs and the top 2's long gone, that could give them the minute they need to just reset and get back to the good performances they need. It's not over yet, Middlesbrough fans, don't you worry. Let's do a bit of a chat.
Simon, can I just ask you 2 questions?
Yes.
Tournament football.
Yep.
Eka, Jakirovic, Neil, Hellberg. I want Jakirovic or Neil. Tournament football.
Yeah.
You say Borough have got the highest ceiling. I agree, but it's not league football. It's 180 minutes of tournament football. How many times have we seen Hull do 0.3 XG and 30% possession and win an away game this season? And how good are Millwall at not having the ball and winning?
Look at Sunderland last season in the playoffs.
There you go.
Sheffield United and Coventry probably better over the games against them.
And Sunderland are the poster boys for taking a rest before the end of the season.
Yeah.
So,
and even Leeds, when they lost the playoff final to Southampton a couple of years back, you'd say they were more of the attractive football style Southampton, Middlesbrough mould. So yeah, I think I'm probably with you there. We need to talk about Millwall quickly as well. What a season it's been, Chris. Where's it come from? How good has Alex Neil been?
I mean, Alex Neil is just a phenomenal manager. Obviously, we've just spoken about who you'd want in tournament football. And he needs to take a lot of credit for the way that we've showed up this season. But I think the whole club does, if I'm honest. You know, when you look at the stability that the Berylson family create, you know, we've had some good sales. Romain Esse, Javit Tanganga, that's been invested very well. and into the right players. We talk about signing Femi Aziz for £1 million. I mean,
Brilliant.
Unbelievable business. And Tristan Crammer, I'm sure we'll talk about some of our most effective players in a bit. You've kind of got the club united when you think about the fans, the manager, the players. And then you've got Alex Neil, who is, for me, the most perfect Millwall manager that you could have. I genuinely wouldn't swap him for anyone that we could realistically get. He is a really good manager in the sense that he plays a style of football that is akin to his style, although he's developed it slightly, but it's also a style that gets the best out of the players, but also the fans. Millwall fans never want to see tick-a-tack of football, playing out from the back.
Joe Edwards, what prime example that is.
Yeah, I mean, we won 4-0 our first game at Sheffield Wednesday. I'm like, here we go. And then it all went Pete Tong. But yeah, I just think Alex Neil has got us playing a really good style of football. We are the best away team in the league this season. And that, to me, going back to your point, we're comfortable without the ball, but we're effective when we have it.
You'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Ben? And I think Millwall do get put into this little category of what they are as a football club and maybe the football that needs to be played, but also the manager needs to respect that and also work towards that. I think Alex Neil's a far better manager than he gets credit for, obviously promoted from this level as well with Norwich. You're looking at the playoffs right now, probably instead of the top two. Ben said earlier, Alex Neil's probably the manager you'd want. How are you feeling looking into that and these chances of promotion?
Yeah, I mean, it's cup football, and I think what we need is, crucially for us, we've got to get our starting 11 fit and available, because too often this season that's not been the case. And when we've got them, I think we've proven, as we've beaten Middlesbrough. I remember coming to Coventry and
Superb.
I thought we were brilliant. It was one of our best performances. We ended up losing somehow, but that's not happened often enough, and we don't have the plethora of options that Ipswich do. You can rotate out and have Philogene and Clark interchanging, and it doesn't really weaken your squad that much. Sorry, that you're starting 11. Whereas for us, if Femi Aziz isn't playing, if Casper Denora isn't playing, if Billy Mitchell isn't playing, it does weaken it. So I think the key thing for us is, I do believe we have the right manager. I think that not many teams will fancy coming to the Den in a cup game.
Would you rather play home first or second?
I think you always want the second game at home, don't you?
And you've earned that this season. I mean, it would take something pretty bad now for you to finish fifth or sixth. So you have earned that over the season. I think the Den second leg, that's tough, isn't it?
Fair.
So that's what we'll be looking for. But then, going back to the point around having players available, we need one more win to mathematically secure it, I believe. Do you secure that win against QPR, touch wood, and then you start to rest a few players, make sure everyone's fit and available, which may bring you down in that order, and it may end up having to play a Southampton versus a Hull, or do you continue the momentum but run the risk of the fatigue hitting the players? It's such a, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic problem to have, and if you'd have asked me this at the start of the season, I would have bitten your hand off to finish anywhere in the top six. So all that to say, I think just an incredible job that Alex Neil and the whole football club have done this year.
So is there almost more chance of Millwall getting promoted? Obviously, this suits me as an Ipswich fan. If Ipswich were to win at Pompey tomorrow night at time of recording and then beat Middlesbrough in the head-to-head, and Millwall can almost go, okay, Billy, have a rest. Femi, have a rest. Let's gather this together and let's win one semi-final and a tournament game at Wembley. Does it almost work better rather than could still get second? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would add in please beat Southampton as well, because they would.
I
would
want
be
there to be absolutely nothing to play for in that game, to be honest.
But yeah, I think so. I mean, I have accepted it's going to be playoffs, right? I think that Norwich loss for us, and obviously with Ipswich beating them, and then us not being able to get over the line against West Brom, we're just running out of steam. And I think we played 3 times in 8 days. Obviously, playing on the Friday instead of the Saturday, you don't know how much these affect smaller squads that we have. But we had an 8-day gap before the QPR game, and if we can just get that win over the line, then I think potentially it's a case of, right, okay, we're in there now and we can start to manage the squad a little bit better, which who knows, could help teams like Oxford, right? And Leicester and whatever.
Right. That's the thing, the fixtures we've looked at and we've previewed, they could change what they mean entirely.
Everyone's got to do the right thing for their club, haven't they?
Exactly. Quick word on Barry Bannon, by the way, obviously one of the most eye-catching signings of the season in the Championship. You mentioned a small squad. What's he been like? How have Millwall fans taken to him?
Yeah, I think so. Millwall fans have definitely taken to him. I think he's got his own sort of mini song, which it takes a long time. We haven't just got.
You want to give us a rendition, or?
It's literally Barry. That's it. So we're quite inventive as fans. Still the best chant. I'll argue with anyone on that. But this is what I was alluding to earlier. I think the feeling was when the January transfer window closed, it was Millwall have won that window. Millwall have had a phenomenal window. But then you're looking for impact from that window. And I think Anthony Patterson in goal has had an impact.
What a save from Malumbi, by the way.
And against
Town. Yeah.
Exactly. So he has had an impact. But then you look at Barry Bannon and Tommy Watson, and I think there would have been at least half a dozen Championship clubs that wanted to take Tommy Watson. We felt we won that, but this is brilliant. But he hasn't really done much yet.
There's only one point that Tommy Watson turns up and it's in the 120th minute of a playoff final.
Well, we can do that again for sure.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think going back to, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think the January signings have had the impact we'd have liked. And when I look at the teams that have had an upturn in trajectory recently, I think you can look at their windows. Frank Onyeka for Coventry, huge signing.
Those boys at Norwich in January have really made an impact, haven't they?
Southampton, we spoke about that earlier. I think Oxford, you having depth in other areas that, by bringing Dan Neil in, that you can then, he can rest, which he did against Norwich.
This is the non-parachute paradigm,
that's where Borough haven't done it though as well in January. I think that's where they look at it and they haven't probably added in quite the right areas.
But they spent a fair bit, right? They brought in obviously Castledine, who hasn't had the impact, Sarmiento. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's interesting when you look at the teams that have had an impact from January and where their trajectories versus the ones that haven't. And I think for us, Barry Bannon has shown in glimpses what he's all about. I think we know what he's all about, right? He's a very, very talented player at this level. But I think it's a bit of a system mismatch, if I'm being honest.
I was going to say, Chris, you're in a fight with West Brom with 30 minutes to go. You got no central midfielders, and he didn't put Bannon in, did he? Put Sacco in.
And this is it, because he obviously opted for legs versus, the creativity, which is really interesting. But Barry Bannon is a player that you want him to do more that way than that way, right? And that's where he's always excelled. And Millwall, and this goes back to Alex Neil's style of football, and Millwall central midfield at the moment, which is two sitting players, which is usually Casper Denor and Billy Mitchell. Their job is not really to influence going forwards. It is to win the ball back and pass it to someone else that can influence it. That is not a system.
The guy on the right wing who's going to cut in on his left foot.
And also, I don't think Barry Bannon's a 10 at all. And I think they've tried him there a couple of times.
We tried him there, it didn't work. So, I think he's a very, very good player, and I'm just hoping his experience and at the right times in his playoff run-in, that's when we start to see his impact. But can I sit here right now and say I've seen it? No, I can't.
Right. Last thing we need to do on Millwall is predict what happens to them at the end of this season. Ben, how are you feeling about Millwall? I'll let you go first. In fact, I think they will finish third and they will get past Hull in the semi-finals and get to Wembley. I'll leave it there for now. Ben, what do you reckon?
Well, let's not bury the lead. If they finish third, that's outstanding, isn't it? Because you kind of hope when you're Millwall or... And I know you can argue Coventry didn't have the parachute payments, but 2 years ago recruited brilliantly to a point where you can sell Harmer and Gyökeres, be on a level, get a great manager in, go on a run last season. Everyone else changes their manager, extra churn. You're all set. Away you go. And by November, you're miles and miles clear. The ceiling then for the likes of Millwall is, can you hope that the parachute bods and maybe Wrexham and Birmingham with far bigger budgets don't have great seasons, and in you go. And they've done absolutely extraordinarily well to do that. And I totally agree about Alex Neil. Do you feel sometimes in the Championship, a manager just reaches a point where they just know the level so well? They're kind of in their groove. I love his press conferences as well.
So honest.
The amount of times I'm decoding a damn press conference. Right, he said that, but what does he actually mean? Alex Neil, no, we didn't play well today. We did play well. By the way, this is exactly what I did at half-time to explain to this Luddite. Oh, okay, right, I get it. And it's not messaging. And, you know, some managers are very excellent at that. And I think they can get to the final, and then in a one-off game, there's almost part of me that thinks that they want a Middlesbrough or a Southampton in a semi, that Hull could 0-0 their way through it and win on pens, or
I can see penalties, whatever
something.
happens.
Oh, can you not? Seriously.
Hey, I've been there, honestly.
Who's the best matchup over two legs, and who's the best? Because you've got two distinct possibilities. You've got the football teams in Middlesbrough and Southampton, and you've got Hull, who play man to man and could knock anybody out. Hull could.
Who do you want?
Who do I want? We've beaten all of them.
There you go.
We have beaten
Not
all
over
of them.
two legs, though.
Not over two. So Southampton, I don't think we've lost against this season. Someone will have to fact check me on that. Borough, we won at theirs, they won at ours. Hull, I think, was one each. So, but we've proven we can beat all of them. Hull will want to beat us for the disallowed goal from McBurney. So, I think you have to take the side that you think you can beat first, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
just get there.
Just get there. So I'd probably take Hull, if I'm being honest. I think again they've had a tremendous season. In my opinion, McBurney is the signing of the season. I think he's been phenomenal. But look, let's just get there. And as a Millwall fan who, you know, we've not been in the playoffs at this level since parachute payments began. We've not been there since 2001. 25 years. Let's just get there and see what happens.
But you won it in League One.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
4 of the top 6 without parachute payments as well, which is a wonderful position for the Championship to be in. Quickly, score predictions for Pompey versus Ipswich on Tuesday night. Ben?
Well, John Massinio, I'll talk down the camera. You know what to do here. You've got Leicester on Saturday. That is a far more important game for Pompey. Players need to be rested. Obviously, Connor Chaplin's not going to be there because Ipswich brilliantly loaned him to Pompey for him to score the winner against Middlesbrough in the first round. I'm sounding very smug here. I should stop because I'll get negative comments. No, I think the real quiz is Pompey versus Leicester, and it is not the end of the world if it is Pompey 0, Ipswich 2.
I'm going to go for a draw, 1-1 on this one. What do you reckon, Chris?
I think for Pompey to come back from the travel at Middlesbrough and to have expended the amount of time chasing the ball that they did, and then to play Ipswich at home, I can only see an Ipswich win. So, 2-0, 2-1. That's kind of what I'd go with.
Should we finish by doing the Millwall QPR prediction as well this weekend? Given you're on, Chris, we'll do it for a special. You've got to expect to win this game, haven't you?
I mean, QPR are a form side again.
I know.
I mean, when you saw them play
them
against Borough, and then they had the heavy. It's just
6-1 against Portsmouth, wasn't it?
6-1 against, and obviously that's just changed everything for them. They've got a few players back as well. They've been dogged by injuries all season, so and it is a derby, you know. But I think we have to win. I think we have to win to get a bit of momentum back, and you know, we can secure pretty much that playoff place at home, which I think would be fantastic. So I'll go with my heart and say that we'll see a 2-1 win for the Lions.
Yeah, I'll go for a 1-0. Very narrow win as well. What about you, Ben?
I'll double you up on that.
Brilliant. Right,
1-0
thank you all. Before producer Seb cuts us off for running on too long, thank you both very much for joining me. Great debut there, Chris, by the way. Please stay tuned later in the week because we're going to discuss the manager of the season in the Championship and the player of the season. Alex Neil up for manager of the season. Femi Aziz up for player of the season. I'm sure Chris will have plenty to say on that. Next week, Callum Fowler and Will Young will be on with me. Not that Will Young from Pop Idol, the Hull City fan. So subscribe to see us on Monday. But thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Gonna take this moment
and make it last forever. Thanks for watching. I hope you've cut that.